Belly fat, also known as visceral fat, is the most dangerous kind of fat. This fat wraps around your most vital organs, and everyone can point to it as a sign of poor health for a reason. If you've ever bought an exercise program where they told you we're gonna remove your belly fat through this exercise, you were tricked. You cannot target belly fat through exercise. Instead, you need to mobilize a few essential hormones to unlock those fat cells in your belly. Your hormones hold a dictatorship over where you store fat, and one of those hormones is cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone that wreaks havoc when it's dysfunctional. A study looking at 2 groups of women found that those with a higher waist to hip ratio, that means more fat in their belly than their hips, had twice the amount of cortisol when put under an advanced psychological stress. This stress test of sorts had double the production of cortisol, and their cortisol lasted way longer. How can we get this stress hormone under control? Well, it starts with bedtime. A stable sleep-wake cycle is one of the best first steps for improving your stress response of this hormone. We can also improve cortisol by intentionally spiking it. Viewing that morning sunlight increases cortisol by 50%, and this improves the cortisol response later in the day. Additionally, don't let the chronic stress be the only reason you're making cortisol. It might sound counterintuitive, but programming a stressful event like causing a sweat routinely in your life spikes cortisol and improves it. We want you picking not only something that makes you sweat, but something that you actually like. Personally, I like going to the sauna routinely, but I have patients who have made dramatic improvements in their cortisol with the simple addition of 1 minute of jump rope every day. Number 2, no fructose. Fructose is evil, but I'm not talking about the obvious easy stuff like high fructose corn syrup or fruit. Let me explain. A study looking at 2 groups split into those that were drinking the fructose sweetened beverage versus glucose sweetened beverage. Both groups gained about the same amount of weight, but those drinking the fructose sweetened beverage had a significant increase in their visceral fat. Yeah, the belly fat. All right, so fructose causes you to gain belly fat. So just stop eating fructose, right? Well, take that table sugar. It's not just sugar, it's actually sucrose, which means it's 50% fructose, 50% glucose. And that fructose stimulates quite a bit of belly fat growth. That still seems pretty obvious. Don't eat sugar if you want to lose belly fat. But it gets a little more complicated. Over the past year, I was reminded of a fact I learned in medical school, but kind of forgot. And that is that our bodies turn excess glucose into fructose. This process happens much more commonly than we initially thought. And those found with elevated blood sugars, which includes me and many of my patients, will convert that excess glucose to fructose. This means that controlling our blood sugars is vitally important to prevent the growth of those fat cells in our bellies. Which brings me to insulin. This is the mothership. Belly fat starts with insulin. In the absence of insulin, it is physiologically impossible to grow fat cells. In fact, you die pretty quickly without it. Before the discovery of this hormone in the 1920s, the type 1 diabetics, those who do not make insulin, died without it. No matter how much they ate, they could not sustain their weight. Without insulin, fuel, specifically glucose, could not enter their liver, muscle, or fat cells. And the opposite, when insulin is chronically high, we grow and store fuel faster than we can use it. And this chronically elevated insulin is called insulin resistance. If this is you, I made a video on how to reverse this once and for all. I'll see you there.